All right, so this is the table saw, the first tool that we're going to be using. And the table saw, despite looking pretty scary, can actually be really safe as long as you take a few extra steps of precaution. So for one, this is a saw stop, which basically means that if you were to ever touch this blade while it's moving, the blade, it has a built-in brake that like drops the blade at this really high speed, and you'll stay safe. So usually the main concern is not actually cutting yourself on this, it's actually what's called kickback. And kickback is whenever a board or a piece of wood is run on top of the blade in some way. So like the blade is rapidly pushing towards us, right? And somehow the board has gotten on top of that blade, and that causes it to shoot back at really high speeds. And so you get whacked with a big piece of wood, and that can really, really, really hurt, or even seriously injure someone. So a couple of things that we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that no one is in the line of fire, so to speak, of the table saw whenever we start. So we wanna make sure that there's, if I'm cutting right here, right, I'm pushing forward, that I don't directly behind me have someone working or standing there. So we'll try to move them out of the way. Secondly, typically kickback occurs whenever this is not set up correctly. This blade guard plus this riving knife plus these little catcher claw guys right here. If that's not set up correctly, don't use the table saw. So if you come over and you only see this blade and all of this stuff has been taken off for some reason, don't use the table saw. In our class, we'll primarily be using this to protect ourselves and prevent kickback. So we'll usually have this set up, but occasionally we may move to just a riving knife, which looks like this little guy down here. Kind of looks like a raptor claw. But typically this is how you'll see the table saw set up. The other thing we want to make sure is that this dust extraction is plugged into the back and that our dust extraction is actually on so that we're not breathing in a bunch of particles. So once we've figured out that, okay, yes, this is safe to use, right? It has the blade guard on, it's got its dust extraction attached, and everything looks okay. What we're gonna do is we're going to set up the cut. So the first thing is we wanna make sure that our cut is the correct thickness, meaning that the height of the blade is above the thickness of whatever we're cutting. In this case, this piece of wood, I can set next to the blade, and I can look at it from the side and say, yep, the blade is not high enough. It doesn't stick above the wood. So you wanna come down here, and there's this crank. It locks and unlocks with this middle wheel. So I loosen this a little, and then this will wheel up and down. And as I change the wheel up and down, it raises and lowers the blade. So I usually just want it to be just slightly above, I don't need to go crazy like this. I just want a few teeth above the thickness of the blade, the height of the wood. Then I'm gonna tighten this guy back down, this middle. So remember, this one changes the height, this locks this. So if you have a hard time moving it, make sure this is unlocked. Okay, so the height is set correctly. Now let's set our fence. So our fence has some different measuring tools on it. One thing that students often do is they'll use this interior measurement tool, see how it's on like the inside between the fence and the blade, whereas we actually should be using this exterior measurement right here. So this is telling us how much of a distance between this and this blade exists, okay? So if this is at 10, so I just moved it to the little 10 line, then there's 10 inches right here. So whatever I push through will be cut to 10 inches on this table saw. For your first cut, we're gonna set that to 5 inches. So I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna look at my ruler, I'm gonna make the red line go to the 5 mark. Then I'm gonna take this handle and push it down to lock it into place. If you come over and you can't move this, lift this handle up. That lets you move it. So I just wanna make sure I'm at the 5, looks good. Lock it down. And that means this cut right here will be at 5 inches. So if I took my piece of wood, I can see, okay, yep, it's gonna be cutting off this little extra bit right here, and I'll be left with 5 inches of board. Before I start cutting, I'm gonna lower this. Make sure everything's in place. And I'm just going to imagine the cut before I make the cut. I'm gonna be pushing this is called a rip cut. I'm gonna be pushing this through along the fence all the way until it's out the other side. So what does that mean? I'll show you on this side. Still pushing, I'm still push. I'm gonna stop once it's all the way past, okay? That's whenever it's safe to then turn off the blade and go collect my wood. I never, ever, ever am gonna pull something back towards the blade, and I'm never gonna stop something halfway through, okay? So I'm not gonna stop right here and turn the blade off. I'm gonna really make sure that I push it and I'm clear the whole way from the blade. These are our different push blocks and push sticks. I like to use this guy for thinner stuff and the gripper for thicker things. I would say if your hand is gonna be near this red zone, you should be using a push block or a push stick in some way. So in this case, my hand is gonna be near this red zone, right? As I push through, I'm gonna wanna use a push stick. Now, the trick to pushing on a table saw is that I don't wanna watch the blade. I actually wanna watch between the fence and the board. So I'm gonna be pushing this way and down and forward. So I'm pushing kind of like this the whole way. So I'm pushing, pushing, pushing. A lot of people will just go like this, never have a gap here. The gap is whenever you get into problems. It's whenever you start having kickback. So the entire push, I'm pushing this way, down and forward. I'm watching this gap right here. I don't care about the blade. I care about this. So I'm gonna watch that gap. As I get far enough along to where my hands start to get near this red zone, I'm gonna grab my push stick and switch over, okay? I'm gonna show you that cut in just a second once I tell you how to turn this thing on. All right, so to turn this on, I'm gonna come down here and make sure this is a solid green light. If it's not, it's usually the switch just needs to be flipped up. It's gotta be solid, not flashing. Then this paddle gets pulled towards me. That turns the blade on, and I push it to stop it. I don't wanna get near the blade while it's still spinning. So it's done, completely stopped, it's no longer spinning, we're good to go. All right, so I'm gonna do this cut, and Roy's gonna stand over here so that he can see me do the cut. But remember, I'm pushing down and to the right and forward. So it's kind of this push like this, keeping it aligned. So I'm gonna turn this on. I'm gonna start the cut. Notice I'm watching this. Take my push stick. Wait for it to stop completely. So notice that I pushed all the way until it was clear. That was a good cut. And afterwards I have this little piece that you can then go put in the bin. So I'm gonna do that at 5 inches. Then the partner is gonna do it at 4.5 inches. So we're gonna flip this around. We're gonna move this down to 4.5 inches. And they're gonna do the exact same cut again, but your partner is gonna do it pushing it through. That should give you 2 really flat, clean edges. 4.5 inches. Start here. There you go.